All right, welcome guys to Children of Dionysus. Today's guest today is Minh Collins. Min, how you doing, man?
Hey, great. Good to see you and happy to be on your show. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate your time, man. You've got tons of experience and stuff, so I'm very excited to, delve into that and talk to you, chat with you, because you've seen it from probably every angle that you can imagine.
Yes, I've had quite a bit of experience in the industry, so yeah, it's love to be here and be able to share some of my experiences.
Fantastic, man. So, real quick, tell us where you're from originally.
Okay, yeah. So I was born in Vietnam, a
Okay.
product of the Vietnam War. My father is from Detroit, Michigan,
Okay.
and he came over to Vietnam to work. At the time, he was a soldier. He worked for an oil company.
Okay.
He worked in as an accountant for them.
Okay.
So there were a lot of interests in Vietnam because there's so many natural resources, and so I was able to experience the first 5 years of my life in Vietnam, and then we moved because his job actually not canceled him, but finished his term there, and then of course they transferred him to Thailand. So
Wow.
we moved to Thailand and lived there for a couple of years. So it was a pretty amazing experience living abroad. Also, as a child, of course, it's always the easiest way to learn a language. Because you soak up the language when you're a child. So I learned Thai fluently when I was living there, and that was interesting. I love the culture and everything about it. And then of course after that, after the 2 years of his contract was over, then he moved and we moved to Singapore and lived there for a couple of years. So yeah, so at that age, it was kind of interesting, because I constantly had to keep moving from school to, with the job relocation, I'm always reinventing new friends, moving to different schools all the time as a kid. And so you adapt, you learn how to survive. Of course, you want to come to a new environment and then you want to, meet new friends and start everything over because as a kid you don't think you're going to keep moving, and of course when you get the news that hey, we're moving to another country, you're like, what? I don't want to leave my friends at that time. So yeah, so I think that's the part that I really develop as a young child, to learn to get along with everyone and to make new friends.
Great. So you mentioned, interesting a couple of times with these places. What was the most interesting about? Because that's Southeast Asia primarily is the region, right? So what did you find was the most interesting about living in that region and all those different cultures?
I really love, well, I mean, as a child, you get to experience, once you move to a new country, my parents always, of course, we did a lot of exploring of the areas, and I really love the culture and also the religion over there.
Mm,
In Thailand, there were so many like temples that you can go to and
really?
see these. I mean, I think the one thing that I remember vividly as a child is we went to this temple that had this huge Buddha. I mean, this Buddha was probably the size of the Statue of Liberty, and it's
Really?
yeah, and it's laying down and you can walk around it and it's all gold plated. I mean, it was surreal. It was very interesting. So I love that. What's the other thing I really enjoyed as a child? Oh, they would have like these fairs, sort of like the fair would come to town, and
Okay.
so there's all these carnival rides and things like that. Great food, and then they would have elephants playing soccer. So you have these huge elephants. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And they would kick these gigantic soccer balls. And they would try to score goals, they run back and forth. They kick the ball to each other. And they would have someone on top, like, sort of like polo,
Okay.
where you have the jockey on top and they're controlling these elephants to do all these things. Like, so, and then, of course, it would take forever to score a goal because they're so large. And then once, let's say a team would drive the ball down to the opponent's goal post,
Yeah.
Then the one of the I guess thing they would do is they would line a couple elephants and lay down in front of the goal. So it would block up the entire goal, so they couldn't score. Yeah, yeah. So that was a amazing experience as a young child. And then, oh, there's another thing which I love. So, whoever hasn't been to, are you planning on going to Thailand? These are some of the cultural thing that's very interesting, which we don't get here in the States. There's a river. It's called a floating river,
Hmm.
and they sell like it's basically like a farmer's market. They sell everything on these little boats, and you kind of ride on these. You rent a boat and you have a guide, and they take you down this river, and you can stop and get lunches, buy fruits, and yeah, so it's really cool. So those are the things that I remember as a child,
So
and of course, yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and of course, over there you play football, which is soccer.
Yeah.
There's no other sport. So that was what I grew up playing soccer.
So you take the boat, I guess there it's out floating in the river or whatever. I'm assuming it's a river without a current or a very
Right.
strong one. And then you
Yeah,
just take the little boat from each little
right.
shop and stuff.
Yeah,
That
and
sounds
and the
awesome.
shops the shops are actually vendors that have all the stuff on their little boats too. It's not like you go to shore. They're all floating. That's why it's called a floating market. Because all the vendors have, let's say, someone's selling bananas, right? And they have all the
Okay.
bananas on their little boat. And you would dock next to the boat and you go, oh yeah, I want some of those bananas. And you would buy that and then you move down to and then buy something else.
That sounds fantastic. And this is in Thailand?
Yeah, it's in Thailand.
Oh wow. So I know that they play football over there. I know another big sport though is Muay Thai, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
Muay Thai.
which is I
Yeah.
think the most beautiful martial. I used to train in it, so it's like it's pretty awesome. Did
Okay.
you ever do Muay Thai as a kid?
I didn't do Muay Thai, but I took karate.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, as a kid because my parents, growing up, I was always very little, like
Okay.
I was the small kid in the classroom kind of deal, and so my parents thought, oh, we put him in karate and that he can protect himself if he ever get picked on, which. I don't know. I never got picked on, but it was their concept of making sure that I defended myself. But I did enjoy karate.
What? How far did you make it? Did you make it a black belt?
No, no, no. I was very young. I started taking it, let me see, in Thailand. So I was like probably around 5 and I took it for a couple of years. So
Hmm.
I think like brown belt, something like that.
Okay.
And over there's not that many different colors. Like in the States, you've got like 10 different
Yeah.
spectrum, of belts, right? Over there you have like white and you have yellow, you have brown and you have black. And that's it. You have four, and it takes forever to move from one to another kind of deal.
I mean, that's pretty high then. You got pretty high.
Yeah, I got pretty high, but also I was probably the youngest kid in the whole entire class. I mean, the instructor was like serious, serious karate person. You knew that you don't mess with this guy for sure. He's solid, solid guy.
How do you think that influenced you later on in life?
I think karate really helped my life. I think it shaped my life a lot.
In what
Um,
way?
in the sense of many many things. It gave you more confidence as a
Okay.
person growing up, and especially going from different schools. I think it gave me more confidence to be able to go out and talk to people and not be afraid. So that's one thing I thought that really helped me out a lot. Also, once I moved back to the States, uh, the thing about starting very young in a sports or in something like that, it helps you with your hand-eye coordination.
Okay.
And that really, I thought, really helped me with my sports later on in life. Like I started taking up baseball when I came to the States. Actually, I started baseball in Singapore when I was living there, so at a younger age. But when once I moved back to the States, I started playing American football because soccer was not popular when I was growing up. But we did have it in school. We had school teams, but they weren't like like big. Nobody really played it, and so I was really good in soccer when I came back because I used to play a lot against like older kids because I
Yeah.
would play every day. And at first I really sucked, but then as time went on, I got really better. And then once I came back to the States and played soccer, of course, it's kind of like playing against kids at your own age that don't play very much. So
Yeah.
I was very good at that. And then of course I developed playing football because I learned the sport and I really loved it. So I played Pop Warner for many years. And that was my sport. I love baseball and football. And I think part of how I became so coordinated and good at those sports was because of my early training in hand-eye coordination, doing karate.
Did you feel like they kind of cross-pollinated?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think so. I think any sports that you can always translate something once you become coordinated in one thing, it's easier to cross over for sure.
Now, I read somewhere that you were obviously a very serious athlete and you were potentially considering going pro in something. What sport was that?
Well, I mean, I was playing baseball. I mean, pretty much all my life.
Okay.
Started in Singapore, and then when I came back to the States, I continued to play Little League, and then of course in high school I played high school baseball, and I really loved the sport. And I thought I was I was decent. I was good, in the sense of like I had I think in my JV year I played. I was the MVP, and I had like the highest batting average. I was very fast.
Okay.
So I was always like the leadoff batter. And once I, got on base, I had the highest, I think, on base percentage, either by walking or, singles, because I was fast enough to. Sometimes I would beat out, like little small hits that would normally, get thrown out on. I was fast enough to beat them out. And then once I got on first base, I would steal second. It was like a given. 'Cause I'm so fast. So that was a sport that I really wanted to go and play pro professional. The only problem is that I love football as well, and I played high school football,
Okay.
and I dislocated my shoulder my junior year playing on the varsity team, and that ruined my baseball career because I couldn't throw. So I felt like, now with Otani, and how well he's doing. I don't know if you follow the Dodgers at all,
No.
but he's like one of the top players right now, and he's from
Oh,
Japan. He's yeah, I mean, he's highly, I mean, he's one of the top player. I mean, he's a phenomenal. He hits home runs. He's a leadoff batter. Um, he DHs when he doesn't, he's not playing on the field. And then this year, because the Dodgers acquired him last year, and I was very shocked that, like, what was it? The Angels gave him up. And so the Dodgers picked him up. Because at the time when he was playing for the Angels, he was, a superstar already.
right.
And then so when the Dodgers, actually, I'm sorry, last year they won the pennant with him.
Okay.
But this year, they're very, very good team this year. But so anyways, he last year he did not even play on the field. He's just DH'd and designated hitter for people that don't follow baseball. And he's phenomenal. And so this year he started playing in the field and he's a pitcher. And so
Okay.
so far the times that he's pitched, like I think a couple nights ago he pitched like a 7 inning no hitter.
Wow.
Pretty phenomenal for a guy that, is an amazing batter, right? Because
You
usually,
don't really hear that. Yeah.
you don't hear that. You don't hear like, batters, pitchers don't bat very well. Usually
Right.
that's all they concentrate on, right? And so for him to be, a phenomenal pitcher as well, and he's pitched like I think 2 or 3 times in the last month or something, and each time it's been a no hitter, or he would is pretty phenomenal. You can if you watch him pitch. He's got like this blazing fastball that, for a great batter, to have someone that can pitch that well. So yeah. So it kind of reminded me like when I was playing, although I didn't play, I was in the pitcher. I played second base because I had, good hands and I can play the field. But yeah. So basically that was my baseball career down the tubes from my dislocated shoulder playing football. But I don't regret it. I think if I had a choice of playing football or baseball in the pros, I probably would have played football. And unfortunately,
Really?
football would have like ruined my career, my life. Because all those players that by the time they're in their, retirement age, which is like 30 or 35, their body becomes a wreck, right? So,
Yeah, they followed Jerome Bettis around. Jerome Bettis is for the people that don't know, is a punishing running back for the Steelers back in
I know.
the 90s. And this guy took him like 15 minutes to get out of bed. Like
Yeah.
he was destroyed. His body was just destroyed. So yeah, I hear that for sure.
Yes, I think most players that retire from playing football, it doesn't matter what position, unless you're a quarterback. Even the quarterbacks, I mean, they're the ones that can last the longest because they don't get hit as much. I
yeah,
mean, some of them do, but most of them can play. Like Tom Brady, he played up into his 40s, right, or something like that.
45, some stupid number,
Yeah,
like
40. Yeah,
45,
some
some
stupid
crazy
number.
number. Yeah,
Yeah, but normally, I mean, players don't they can't play that long because their bodies can't take it. And then
yeah,
of course, there's all that aftermath of, when you get to that age and your body has been through all that we don't hear about.
right.
And so yeah, so in a way, I think for me, it was a good thing because I didn't really become like, in the size you need to play football.
Yeah,
Uh, 5'9" in high school, which is a good size for a football player. But then once you go into college, of course, you need to be a lot bigger and,
they're animals. They're so
yeah.
big in college. They're so big. What
Yeah, so
position did
big.
you play?
In football, I played, well, I did kickoff return and punt return because I was fast. I played
Okay.
defensive back, and then on defense because I was fast to cover. And then I played like slot back and wide receiver. So I always played the key position where the hands position where you're handling footballs. And
Mm,
also, I'm fast enough. So that was my I guess that's what made me like efficient to be able to run around people and stuff. Of course, when you get older too, the guys get faster. You know, like the linemen. I think once you get in college, they become just as fast as you are.
yeah.
Where in high school, I can run around these guys.
And they're twice your size. That's
Yeah,
insane.
they're twice your size, and you're like, what?
Like being hit by a Mack truck, man.
Right, exactly. And you're just like, okay, I guess I'm not that fast anymore.
What what was your 40 time?
Uh, you know what? It's been a while, I have to say. But I think, I was one of the faster guys on the team. What's like a average I mean a fast 40, I think it was like what is that?
Like a 4.5 is a decent
Decent.
40 time.
Yeah,
They
I think I
usually
was
bring
in
it
the
down to 4.4 in
yeah, I
college.
was in the fours. I don't exactly remember what it was,
Yeah.
but again, I had speed, but also I was quick, which
Which
is
is
yeah,
yeah.
that's why I like running kickoff returns and stuff. If you're quick enough, you dodge all these guys flying at you at 100 miles an hour.
You're like a little June bug. It's just
Yeah,
scanning
exactly.
around.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think my junior year I was running kickoff return. That's when I first started for the varsity team. I had a 98-yard return, kickoff return.
Really?
Yeah, and it was fun because it's kind of funny. I bounced off somebody, and they thought I was tackle, and next thing you know, I came out around the corner and just took off. Yeah, so it's fun. That's why I love the sport so much. It's an amazing sport, but it's very violent.
Yeah, yeah. It's unbelievable. And you grew up in California, right?
Yes, I
Which
live
is
in
like
pretty much. Yeah,
Ventura.
Ventura.
Right. So I grew up in Florida, and like the three big states for football are Florida, Texas, and California.
Yes.
Uh, so
Well,
you
Florida, I think Florida, there's some amazing players that come out of Florida.
yeah.
I mean, you know, uh, it's kind of funny where the in California, I find that there's good players that come out of here,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're like very key players that are, but I think like the big linemen and stuff, they come out of like Midwest, right? Because
Yeah,
of
corn fed.
yeah, corn
Like
fed.
the big corn fed 350-pound
Right.
behemoths.
Yeah, but it's a guy that eventually can chase you down and
Right. Um, they
did
had
you play
this.
football?
I did play football. I played rover, running back, fullback. I played nose tackle.
Okay.
I played uh yeah, fullback, running back, and primarily nose tackle. I gained like 40 pounds
Yeah,
my
I was gonna
senior
say
year,
you
and they
played the
just
big position. Those are like, nose tackle is you have to have some size, right?
yeah, I'm about 5'8", 5'9", but I was like 245 or
Yeah.
235 and whatever. We
Yeah.
were an undersized defense, but I just could
Yeah.
just go
You
straight,
were
and I'd
quick.
like to
You were
hit
quick.
people.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
quick, so I could hit the gap really, really quickly, and I liked hitting people and I didn't mind getting hit. So they were like, okay, just put them in there.
Yeah, and then a
Uh,
fullback likes to get hit too.
yeah,
You to gain 2 or 3 yards and and run people over.
yeah. It was fun, and I also did a lot of combat sports, so I was just accustomed to hitting guys, getting hit, and it was fine.
Yeah,
In Florida, they have these guys, Lake Okeechobee. Obviously,
yeah,
we're going to talk
absolutely.
about Florida because you're very familiar with it. The guys that come out on like that region, the skill players, they have this exercise where they'll release a rabbit into the field, and they have to run around and catch the rabbit.
No way.
Yeah, that's their agility exercise.
Oh, that's funny.
Those are the kind of football players they're producing out of Florida, man. So
You ever catch them? Because those things are
yeah, yeah.
fast.
Yeah,
They,
yeah, yeah. No, but they do catch them. They do. It's like, yeah, they definitely catch them. Like
that's
that's
funny.
the thing that they have to do. I guess they corral them or whatever, and then they catch them and stuff. So,
Wow, wow, that's
um,
interesting.
so Ventura, California, you kind of grew up. Ventura is, remind me, it's north of LA. How far from LA proper is it?
It's about 45 minutes from the edge of LA, let's say from the
Okay.
valley, because LA is a pretty big county. Yeah, it's
Great.
45 minutes. It's north along the coast.
Okay.
So, if you take the 101 freeway and you're going north towards Santa Barbara,
Mm-hmm.
what happens is as you hit the beach again, because if you take the coast, then you're along the coast and you see the ocean the entire time.
Right.
But if you take the 101, which is a little more inland, and it's quicker, of course, then once you hit the beach, that's Ventura.
Nice. So, I mean, sunny California, 75, 80 degrees every day, right? Like
Yeah,
what was that? What was
life,
what was
life
that
tough.
like? All right.
Life, yeah. I mean, I have to say I had a really good childhood
Yeah.
growing up in LA. Everything was, it's kind of funny how when we're younger, things get so magnified and
Mm,
so big at the time. And looking back, you're like, why? Why was so, concerned about certain things? Because once you're older, you realize, like, what, all those things that we were so concerned about, it's not a big deal anymore,
right.
right? And, we're not saving the world. So those kind of things kind of like, okay, why, but yeah, I love growing up in California. And I don't think I would exchange that for anywhere else in the world. Even
Mm,
the fact that I grew up, some of my younger childhood life was in Asia.
okay.
I did enjoy that and the culture, but I think it was meant to be to grow up in California. And part of that, I believe, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I believe in destiny, and there's a reason why we're where we're at. Uh,
Mm,
and part of the reason why I believe I ended up in California, of course, in Hollywood, and going to school at UCLA, and and meeting all these people in my life that eventually I turned to films. And
right.
that's part of the reason why I think, moving back to California was part of that, maybe, master plan in my life.
Great. So that's a great segue into it. Was that something, obviously being kind of in the soup of that, was that something you were kind of around, or was it something you kind of discovered a little bit later? I know that you did photography and painting as a kid, like that was your jam. So
Yeah,
walk us through kind of was it something that you were a little bit involved in, or it just sort of happened because you were kind of in the soup later?
I think it was kind of like a natural, organic thing that happened in my
Okay.
life. I would never pursued film per
Okay.
se. And of course, I really love photography. I took, was it photography all through high school.
Okay.
I did more back in the day when we had film. And so we did 35 millimeter process, the negatives in a dark room. And then, we made prints out of it, which, yeah, and
Nice.
then also, understood the graininess and the texture and how we can, have the contrast between dark and light because we did it all in black and white.
Okay.
We didn't develop in color because color was something that was too expensive to, it was more of a process. And when you take a class in high school, you have these dark rooms and you go in and you develop these, amazing shots that you took. And also you don't, when you take a picture, you have to know the settings on your DSL, your cameras.
Okay.
You can't just you can't just shoot because you have to know like aperture, you have to know settings, you have to know all these things because you don't see it. Like these days, when you get a picture on your phone, your iPhone, you can see how everything looks, right? And everything is
Okay.
already adjusted. If you took a DSL camera now, there's a monitor, and you can see right away, oh, this thing is overexposed if you want to do manual settings and stuff. And back then, you don't see anything. You're basically taking things in the dark. And so also same with film camera. When you're shooting film back then, you don't see, I mean, you have a monitor, you can see what you're shooting, but you don't really know if you have the right setting. That's why the DPs are so important. They have the light meters, they know exactly what setting you need. Even today, you have the settings, but the thing with the DP is that basically you want to get the looks that you want, the lighting properly, but the settings doesn't have to be exact because there's a huge leeway. When you're shooting in 6K, you're shooting in 8K, you can adjust that kind of lighting in post. So back then you couldn't. If you overexpose something, you're done. There's no way you can adjust it in the dark room to make it better. If you underexpose, it's too dark, and you got basically a black picture.
Yeah.
So all these things, it was very interesting and fun to learn all these things. So that was one of the things I really love is to go into the dark room and process all these pictures that you took, which you don't know whether hopefully you did the right settings. Then once you learn all those things, then of course you know how to set the right setting for whatever picture you're taking.
So how do you do that? Can you walk me through a little bit? Like, is it just the sort of thing where you have to study and understand exactly where everything is, and then you take a picture and you kind of just understand from the studying?
Yeah.
Because if you can't see it, then it's like, how do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you know?
Yes. So for instance, if you're taking something in the dark, right, you turn up, you have to open the aperture, like your eye lenses, right? Yeah, if you're
Okay,
in the dark, your pupils opens up, so more light comes in. So
right.
that's the concept. You understand how to whatever lighting you're in, you adjust to that setting to give you
Okay.
more light. And of course, after doing it a while, you kind of get a good guesstimate of what you should use. And if you have a light meter, then it kind of helps you guide you on like, okay, if it's 800, ISO or whatever it is, then, you can adjust that on your camera, right? So I think that's basically how it works. And of course, it's not exact science, but after doing it a while, you would know that it's close enough to where you can get something that is very good.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I would assume it's just reps. You're just taking picture, adjusting, figuring out sort of how to
Correct.
understand everything. So,
Right.
um, you also would, I would imagine, have to understand the way that the sun, say, if you're taking pictures outside or whatever, like how the sun is positioned, right, and how that would affect your picture as well. Correct?
Absolutely correct. Yeah, even now in film, when you're filming a movie, your DP's job is to you discuss this. For instance, I shot a movie in Bulgaria, and it took place outdoors because it's a beach volleyball movie, and
Mm-hmm.
so we plan on knowing, okay, the sun, since we're outdoors and we don't have basically a big drape over the entire volleyball court, so we plan on shooting a lot of the action scenes the playing scenes in the early part of the morning until leading up to about 11 a.m.
Okay.
And of course, we would shoot towards the evening when the sun is not harsh over your head. Because
Mm,
when you shoot things that when the sun's directly over your head, then you get really weird shadows, and it's really tough to really get good shots. So
right.
we did that where we knew that all the action shots are early morning to mid morning, and then we would lose that ability to shoot over, once the sun's overhead. Then we would go and shoot something else that's more even maybe inside or something that we can control the lighting. And then, of course, at night or more towards the evening when there was a golden hour, which is the best time to shoot, then we would go back and shoot some outdoor stuff as well. So, yeah, so it's kind of like it's a balance of working with the natural lights since you can't control, uh, the sun. It's going to be up there unless it's an overcast day. Then we can shoot the entire day because now you have
Mm.
like a nice covering, which is very nice where you can actually shoot and then adjust in posts and everything.
And how does that differ the lighting in terms of from color to black and white?
Well, it's pretty much the same
Okay.
uh, in the lighting spectrum. Now you're shooting color, and color light is light. It's as long as you have enough information.
Mm-hmm.
And now with filming in like the high res, even if you shoot and it's usually it's better to do a little overexposure because you have all the information than it
Okay.
is to be underexposed. And then, of course, going back into post, you can bring everything back into the normal spectrum because you have a lot more leeway to play with.
Beautiful. And I know that obviously that painting was also a thing because you walked me through painting and how your what kind of painting did you do? Did you do landscapes? Did you do portraits? Did you do what kind of
I
stuff did you paint?
Yeah, I was very specific in my painting styles.
Okay.
I love sports, of course. So
Okay.
I incorporate a lot of the sports like football players, basketball players, things like that. And so what I did was that instead of the normal, let's say you take a photograph, right, and you
Mm,
want to paint something, let's say a football player, you would mimic that, and it would look like a photograph, right? For
okay.
me, I was more abstract, which is what I really enjoyed. So I made things a little more abstract,
Okay.
and and at the time, I mean, I studied film, arts and stuff, and I knew about abstract, and I really liked it. And also for me, I don't, everyone, the thing about abstract is that everyone sees um, things in a different eye, right? Like you
Mm,
see, and what I see, and we look at one painting, or let's say we look at an object, it's completely, what we see is different because you
okay.
have a different look, or, you might see it. And I see things sometimes in abstract, I see, um, like different shapes as opposed to, just the full, I guess, when I'm talking about shapes, when I say that too, is like squares and, triangles and rectangles. And I see that kind of stuff as more of an
Yeah.
abstract, where if someone, that would see a figure or something, they would see like the full body, let's say, the human shape, as opposed to, instead of what I see sometimes is that, I look at more, okay, like the face is more rectangle. It's got, some angles in it. So that's what I see. So I paint in that sense. So and also I love some of the abstract artists. So those are the things that I really enjoyed. And so yeah, that's basically what I really gravitates towards.
Hmm.
But I feel that my art, um, someone that can actually take, let's say, a picture of a horse, right, and completely make it look like a photograph. They can paint it, and you can look
Yeah.
at it and go, oh wow. And so when I see that, I think those artists are amazing. The fact that they can replicate something that's so detailed and so well done. Where
Mm,
if I try that, I don't think I could do it. I
yeah.
don't know. That's not my style. And also, if I really tried, I'm not sure if I can do it. So for me, I appreciate that kind of artist very much, but like if I was going to hang something on my wall, I would hang up an abstract piece because I enjoy that more. Where if I wanted a picture, a photograph of something, something that close, I would take a photograph, and then I would hang that on the wall. So yeah, so for me, it's like it's amazing talent to have that. That person that can actually paint so, I mean, exact to a photograph. And even the eyes look like a real eye, on a horse. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I couldn't replicate that, but I would have like an eye that's like, like something that's so abstract. You're like, what the hell?
Who's your favorite abstract painter?
Let me see. I like oh gosh, I got so many of them. That's a hard question to answer.
Top three.
Well, I mean, I like shoot. What's the one that I really enjoyed, and I have oh shoot, I'm just I'm drawing a blank because it's something that he does, the was it the clocks that are melting?
Dali.
Yeah, Dolly. Yeah, that's one of my favorite. Because it's
He's awesome.
so bizarre, and and it kind of gives you kind of like feel of life has different looks, right? And that's why when
Yeah.
you do films, every director has a different vision, and
Mm,
you can give like the same script to 10 different directors, and things will turn out differently every time because that's why we're individuals.
yeah.
We never will see one thing the same as another person.
Dali, I think he was the artist that says "I am drugs." I think that's one of his quotes. It says "I am drugs"
Yeah.
because I guess people were like, "It looks like you were off
Yeah.
drugs or
Like,
whatever."
you're definitely on something, dude.
What are the elements someone has to understand and body and really master to be a painter, like to be able to create painting?
I think it comes back to light,
Okay.
right? Because shading, that's what gives you the depth, without light, then you don't see anything, right? It's all one monotone thing. So you
Mm,
have to understand contrast and light. And I
okay.
think painting photographs, film, painting, it's kind of all falls in the same, same spectrum.
Great. Fantastic. So getting on the film thing, right? How did you get into film? What was that process like? Walk us through your first actual film project.
Okay. So going back to school, I went to UCLA,
Right.
or actually, I was majoring in the medical field. I wanted to get in the medical field, so
What did you
my
want to do as in the matter?
I wanted to get into radiology,
Okay.
and at the time, I was working. Well, actually, not working, but my um, concentration was actually in health science. I got a
Okay.
degree, bachelor in health science, with a minor in radiology technology.
Okay.
And so I graduated from UCLA with that degree, and then from there I got a job right away from out of college, working at UCLA Medical Center.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, it would be great time to take a break before I wanted to go back to school and get my doctorate in as a radiologist. So I worked with a trauma center at UCLA, working on basically trauma patients at night. I did the night shift,
Like in
and
the ER.
yeah, I was in ER,
Okay.
um, and I worked on CAT scans. So it was a really cool job for a college student that that someone has just gotten out of college. Um, and it was something that it gave me a lot of leeway to do things during the day because my job was very cushy in the sense that it started at 11 at night. I did the graveyard, and I would wait for patients to come in. It was kind of like a waiting game, right?
Okay.
So there would be always, patients in the ER, but the ones I would work on are the ones that are very badly, injured,
Yeah.
especially let's say our car accident that they need to find out if that patient has a bleed, internal bleed, and CAT scans, you can do a quick scan and see if they have an internal bleed.
Mhm.
But most of the patients that come in with colds and minor cuts and things like that, they would never go to the CAT scan. Sometimes patients would come in with a huge headache and they would be concerned they would have like a brain lead, a bleed in the brain.
Okay.
And so we would do a scan on them and stuff. But most likely, chances are we just basically work on very, very bad off patients. Gunshot wounds sometimes because they want to see whether if, that's causing the internal bleeding or whatever. A lot of times, if there's a gunshot wound, they would take them straight to the OR and do exploratory and remove the bullet and things like that. So it was very, very intense work, of course, because you're on this time clock where you got to make sure that this patient gets in your station, make sure that they get the scan that the doctor would need, and then they would rush them to the OR if they need to do exploratory operations and things like that. So um, a lot of times I wouldn't work during a night shift as much because there's no patients that that would bring over to me. And then sometimes like on a Friday night, which is usually, and it's usually during full moon, that's when everything goes crazy. And
The werewolves come out.
yeah, exactly. It's just, it's so weird. Like full moon was the time when we knew, okay, this is going to be, especially Friday night full moon.
Yeah.
Forget about it. You're gonna have, it's normally at least 4 or 5 patients a night, and you're working all night long
Oh
because
wow.
yeah, it's crazy. But so most of the time, I had my own station, my own room, and the ER would call me and say, "Hey, we have a patient. When we're gonna bring that patient over to you, and we're gonna need a CAT scan." But most of the time, they don't.
Okay.
So I would basically, I could, sleep and wait for patients. And so I kind of get most of my sleep during that night shift
Oh
because
wow.
they didn't care. If you're there, basically you're on call. And as long as you're there, you can sleep and wait for patients. So that gave me a lot of leeway once I, finished my shift and I would go back. And I was living in Hermosa Beach at the time. And I got really involved in beach volleyball. That was my thing. So I would basically would finish my shift. I would go and have breakfast on the beach, and then if I wanted to, I can nap a little bit if I was too tired. But usually, I would start playing beach volleyball by 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I would play all day long. That was my shtick at the time. And so that's getting back to why I got to this point. It was that I was playing, and I had a lot of friends that were playing beach volleyball, and most of them were either actors that had the time during the day to stay in shape and play volleyball, and they would have like night jobs as a waiter or waitress, and that left their day open to audition. Back then, the auditioning thing is different now. Everyone's putting themselves on tape.
Right.
Back then, they would call you in, and you would have to do the cold read in front of the camera, and they would show that the director. But so I had a lot of friends that were basically actors and some casting directors, some producers, some directors that would play volleyball, and it's an addictive game. So we really had a good group of people that we hung out with as well, because usually after volleyball, we would go to the happy hour, have drinks, So it
Mhm.
was more like a social event kind of every day. And then
What was so addictive about it?
well, it's kind of weird. It's like one of those sport that once you get into it, you
Hmm.
constantly want to play the game.
Gotcha.
I don't
Okay.
I don't know why. Like baseball, okay, I think this is the reason. In baseball, if you want to play baseball, you would need like nine or at least, nine guys on one team and nine guys on
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
because you need a team.
Right.
In football, you can play like
You need.
street football, but
Yeah.
we need 4 or 5 guys on each team to make it a good game. You can play at the
Right.
park or whatever, and if you're playing on, let's say, a level where it's more organized, and you need at least 11 guys for football. So which is a lot of people, and you can't just organize that. Beach volleyball is a type of sport where you can just go to the beach and it's two on two, and
Right.
so you don't have to be on a team. You can just show up and you're waiting for the game. You can sign up. And depending on your level, there's different courts for different levels.
Okay.
And so court one would be like all the really good players. And if you're starting out, you want to play in court maybe 4 or 5 and then
Hmm.
continue to work your way up. That's how I started. But it's always two on two. So you would sit there, and if your turn comes up, and if you know people, then eventually everyone can team up because they know how good you are and stuff. But if
Right.
you're starting out, a lot of times you sit there, and then when your turn comes up, you're like, "Hey, anybody want to play? I have next game."
Right.
And then, but that's how I guess it's so easy to play, where you're not depending on like 10 people
Okay.
or 5 people or even in soccer, or you need 5 on 5 or something like that, where all you need is 4 people, and you don't even know you have to know those people. You just show up, and so that game becomes like very easy to play, and
Mm.
also it's not expensive. You basically need parking at the beach, and then you need shorts.
Right.
It's not like you're buying tons of equipment, and usually the games have balls there
Hmm.
that volleyballs that people bring, and usually you use the same ball. If you don't have one, you can use the ball that's on the court, right?
Okay.
Because in order to play the game, if I own a ball and they don't have one, I'm not going to say, "Oh no, you can't use my ball," because you want their games to get over so you can play.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's why it's addictive, and also it's a very good way of staying in shape because you're running on the sand.
Right.
Keeps you in shape. And the cardio is great in the sport. So I got really addicted to it. And so it segued into meeting all these friends that work in the film industry. And I learned what they did and how cool, being on the job and what they did. So how I got in on my first set was I had a friend that was playing volleyball. I met, she was a casting director. and she did a lot of casting for commercials. And she said, "Hey, we could use someone like you in the commercial world because they're always looking for different types, different races, just to fill the quota that they need to hire for the jobs.
Right.
And these jobs are super easy. I mean, being on a commercial set, uh, if you're doing background work, it was good money, first of all. And also, you learn a lot. So when I first stepped on, like, I think I did my first Budweiser commercial actually back then, and I
Right.
stepped on the set, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, there's basically all these people like an army running around, and these budgets were big back then. Even I think the commercials back then they were shooting for 250K a day, for
Wow.
1 day shoot. Even commercials they have the budgets. Even like now, I think a lot of the budgets are like, they can range up to like $1 million for 2 or 3 days. So um, that's that segue myself into the film industry because once I got on the set, I was like, I can see myself working in the set. I really love, the creativity, what people are doing, and everyone's working for one purpose, and that's to put something basically on the screen for 30 seconds.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so which is pretty amazing. So that's how I continued to dabble in it because I had the time during the day, and then I would double dip a lot of times. They'll say, "Hey, you want to come and work on a set?" Sure. And then of course, knowing that I have to be back in the hospital at 11 at night, and usually if you have like a 6 a.m. call or 7 a.m. call, sometimes I'll leave early and get someone to cover me to leave early. But a lot of
Mhm.
times, like the call times would be like 9 or 10. I would come on there, and then of course in 12-hour days, I would be wrapped in time to get to my job.
Right.
And eventually, I was working so much that I was like, I probably should make a decision whether what I want to do at this point. And I knew when I started working that I wanted to be a director. So I never really went to film school, but the fact that I did a lot of work as a production assistant as well.
Mm.
I learned from the ground up how to be a director and what it takes, and also by watching like the directors that would work on these basically studio movies and TV shows, with the real budgets, and they know, they knew their craft, and that's what you need to learn is how to pick up what they're doing, how they're able to create this world and make it look real, right? Where I think in film school, they won't teach you that. I think a lot of times film students have to come out of film school if you want to be a director, or producer, or DP, and you would still need to pick up that process. And I think you need to still be a PA. You started from the bottom because film school doesn't teach you all the things that you need to know. And the other big part is raising money, financing films. There's no right or wrong way to do it. There's like a million ways to do it, and you just got to learn how to do it and get yourself out there. So those are kind of things that I think are very important if you're a film student coming out of college, and you need the experience. It's always great to do those kind of things. I'm always asked by a lot of young directors that, hey, I'd love to, you know, shadow you and see what you do. And that's what something that filmmakers, the young ones, need to learn. And then part of that is being a PA. You can come on as a PA. Sure, you're working hard, but then that's the other part that you need to learn is that you need to associate yourself with even the PAs, even the background artists, even, it's just all those people are very important. It's detail in your movies. And if you can't associate with those people, you can't make a movie without background. You can't make a movie without a crew. I always find that I think, maybe I'm more old school, but I
Hmm.
think these days there's a lot of people like, yeah, I could do it. I'll do everything myself. And that usually turns out to be a disaster because it's a team effort, and you want people that are experts in each field to do their job to make you look better. And then your main job is to oversee everything. So if there's something that they're doing that you don't have, it's not in your vision, of course you can correct it, but you cannot, again, I'm a DP, I'm a producer, I'm a art director. It's too much. It's too much for one person to handle. You can't do it. You can, but it just I think it hurts your projects.
Walk me through some of the things that you noticed when you were young PA that you observed in the best directors, the directors that were in the best sets, that were the best at their craft. Like what were some of the characteristics that they had that you observed?
I thought that the ones that were really good were the ones that work well with the actors. They collaborated. They're not the ones that yell and scream, but they work.
Mm,
And that's how I operate. I don't yell and scream my set. I find that working with actors, I get the best work when they're comfortable, relax, and they can trust you. And that's one thing I think is very important is that directors and actors have to collaborate and trust each other. If you have, I mean, I experienced where I've been on sets where the actors, especially the name actors, that their career, is they have a big name and they want to protect their career. And if they don't trust the director, then they feel like there's something that might jeopardize their career because they would make them look bad. So I think the biggest thing is to make sure that the actors are comfortable and they know that you have their best interests and you're gonna show them in a good light, and that's important. So those directors that understood that and were willing to, basically go that extra mile to make that actor feel like this is going to be amazing. And usually it turns out that way because there's a trust there and there's collaboration and they're comfortable and they deliver the best, the best acting in the movie. So I find that part is important. I find that everybody on your set that you work with, I think the ones that understand how to work with those people, I find that those are the sets that are the smoothest and they're the easiest sets to work with. And when people are having fun, again, I've worked on sets where, sure, we went a little overtime, but people are willing to go that extra mile for you. As opposed to, if they're tired and they don't want to, and also they're being treated badly, they're gonna say, hey, you know what? Uh, I don't really give a shit about this, and I want to, basically take off. Or they're gonna want to demand more things. Where if they like you and you guys have a good rapport, they're gonna go that extra mile. So I find like those kind of things are important. I think, having a budget is very important because people, sure, they'll work for you on a short film or something like that as a favor. Uh, but if you don't have a budget for a short film, usually, I mean, I don't do short films as much. I mean, I started with one, and then from then I haven't done one until actually last year. I did one just to help a friend out. But I find that short films are great for you're learning, you're showing your craft, but it's very hard because then, you need a budget to actually have a short film. And also they don't make money. That's the problem. So if you have a budget to shoot a feature, that's my recommendation is that having a budget, I find that people that work and they're actually happy and they're being paid. And I think that's a big part of, uh, I guess, getting a good product out there.
um, thank you. The walk me through a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, how you go about making an actor feel comfortable. I'm an actor myself, obviously, and so
Mhm.
dealing with us is kind of like herding cats sometimes. We can be a little skittish, right? And so,
Right, right.
how do you go about making an actor feel comfortable? Like, walk me through that process. When does that start to begin? Is it begin before the project actually starts? Does it happen when you actually get on set? Because I sometimes you don't have that luxury, and sometimes you do. I know that you deal more in the independent realm, so.
Right. I think I know for me, how I like to work with actors
Mhm.
is that, especially my leads, is that we have the communication line is very important, and also to get their take on what they feel the character needs to be.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, I did the film Hitless. It was an indie film,
Hmm.
and my lead actress at the time had a different vision of what her character was. And for me, it was more of like a dry humor as opposed to like more over the top.
Okay.
And so when we started working and started filming, we didn't really, I mean, we talked about the character, but it wasn't like down to, okay, what kind of comedy is this? And since it's a dry humor, it's more subtle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was neither my fault or her fault, but she was going through the script with an acting coach. And apparently they both came out with the more like over the top kind of almost slapstick, but not quite that much. And so after the first day or so, it got a little uncomfortable because I was like, hey, we need to do this way because she was a little over the top. And of course, it was kind of a butting head, because of course actors feel that, hey, I've been kind of looking over the script and my coach and I have been working on this. This is how I think I should be, kind of deal. And so it didn't work for the first day or so. So what I like to do is I like to compromise. And I said, look, let's, because there's times when she was upset and walked off the set, and I came and talked to her and stuff. And I said, look, let's do it this way. Why don't we shoot some your way and some my way? That way, we have both. So in the editing, we can actually see which one works best.
Mm-hmm.
But then after about a week or so of doing that, and she understood more of the dry humor character as opposed to the over the top. Then she's like, okay, you know what? I'm good. I understand. And and then so we moved forward without having to do both types. But yeah, but that's I think just like understanding and compromising and working with your actor. I think that makes them feel a lot more comfortable than trying to force something on somebody. And of course, having the luxury to do that too, which doesn't take much. You take, let's say, if you're doing 5 takes one way, do 2 or 3 takes the other way. And, as long as you get it. And I'm usually pretty fast where if someone delivers something that I see is something that it's in my vision and it works for me, then I don't need them to do 20 takes. I can do like 1 or 2 takes and hey, let's do a safety and then let's move on where I don't understand someone doing like 20 takes or 30 takes. How much better is that going to get? And, as long as you can adjust them, I feel that the adjustment will help getting them to where you want them to be, as opposed to, okay, let's do 30 takes and I don't tell you what you're doing wrong, but keep doing it. I don't get that part either. As a director, you should have a vision in mind what you want and how you want them to deliver a line. And if you don't have that, they're not they can do 50 times and then they're not going to find it. Right? So yeah.
So how does an actor then on the other side of it, if they really have strong convictions or they really felt like working, what's the best way for them to approach you and talk to you and conduct themselves when talking to a director or producer about that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times actors will come on set and they should have their version of what they think, how this should be
Mm-hmm.
played out, right? I mean, they should have in mind their character and how and come to me with it. And usually I don't even like try to tell them ahead of time what it is, because they read the script, they understand it, and come with your character and and how you feel about it. And let's say we do a couple takes and it's like something I don't want. I'm like, it's a little off. And then so what I'll do is I'll talk to them and say, hey, this is, something I think this is more of this. Or sometimes even right before we shoot, if that person comes to me and say, hey, I feel this character is should be this way and that way. I say, yeah, let's try it. Because
Mm.
I'm open to it. And a lot of times for me, when I look at a tape, let's say, these days, when I look at, let's say, 10 different auditions, sometimes I'll look at one audition and I'm like, you know what, I didn't think of it that way, but I think that's kind of cool. I kind of like that. So
Mm.
it gives me like a different perspective. So I'm always open because sure, I have a vision, but if someone brings something to the table that's better, I'll go with that. I'm not married to like, oh yeah, this is my vision and it needs to stick. That's why it's a collaborative thing. So when somebody comes and they have to have at least some kind of vision of or idea of that character and bring it and then if I something I like, let's continue with that. If I don't, then we'll adjust. So yeah, so it's very easy though. I mean, if someone thinks, hey, I really like this character and I want to play it this way, they can talk to me first before we shoot even, and I say, yeah, let's try it. Let's see how how it plays out.
So
So
you're
yeah,
all
it's
sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. No, so I'm completely open. I'm not like one of those. This is it. This is how it should do.
So even on a self tape, you're open to them maybe throwing in a little curveball or a little sort of
Yeah, I
yeah,
think, different reads, different perspective.
yeah.
Again, if I'm always open to seeing different things because I find that when I look at tapes and stuff that there's so many times that I'm like, wow, you know what? I didn't think that character is that way, but the way that they're delivering it, I think it's kind of cool. So I'm completely open for it. And then even like when we're filming, if I like that read and and that person didn't get selected, because sometimes they don't have the looks, again, actors should not feel um, I guess, personal when you don't get picked on something because there's so many things that go into picking an actor for a part, let's say. A lot of it for a lead is basically a name, which kind of sucks. I wish we didn't have to deal with that, but a lot of times that's what sells the movie and that's what distributors want. And sure, we'll audition many leads, but a lot of times, there's already someone that we have in mind for that role. And so just because you're reading for the lead doesn't mean that, um, I mean, sure, if you get turned down, doesn't mean it's anything against you. It's just that there's that person that's, that we need to hire. But the good part about that too is that if you deliver something that's really good, that in a role that in a lead that we already know that it's going to be cast, let's say a name actor, I usually will look at that person and say, wow, that person's really good. I'm going to see if we can move them to something else. And I'm sure that's happened a lot of times to some actors too, where they've read for something and then, hey, we really liked you, but can you read for something else? And then they end up getting booked on a different role, right? So for me, it's not a total loss if you're reading for a lead that a name, eventually you'll see in the breakdown, oh yeah, so and so got cast, and you can see why, whatever, right? But then at least you get to be seen, and if your read is good for that part, then of course the director will say, hey, let's bring this person in for this other. I can see them playing that role. So
I love I hear that happening so many times. Like I think for The Godfather, James Caan read for Michael Corleone, and
right,
I think it might have been Robert De Niro also read for like and Al Pacino had to audition something like 9 times, some stupid number because the studio didn't want him.
right, yeah, I heard that too.
And Coppola was like, "This is my guy," And so I
Right,
think that's great advice. Basically, what I'm hearing from that is, don't take it personally. It's not now. There are all these other elements working for you, like all, behind the scenes that you don't even see, and maintain a good attitude you know, because you don't
right.
know. You never know.
You
Like
don't know. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, the big part is they say is that if you get a chance to, have someone open the door, and that's what it is that someone's opening a door for you to audition, and then you get seen, and that's what you want. And then, of
right,
course, many things can happen from it, where if you don't get seen, then, there's no chance, right?
right. I know that your one of your favorite movies is Shawshank Redemption, which when I read that, I was like, that's my guy. It's like I love that film. It's one of those films that like whenever it was on TV as a kid, I stopped what I was doing and I just watched. Like there's a
Yeah.
couple films like that. So first of all, what did you love so much about that film? And what are some of your other inspirations?
I think it's one of like the more perfect films that are out there. It's
Why?
got like a very rounded arc with all the characters. I
Okay.
mean, you really associate yourself to. It's a comeback story, of course,
Yeah.
right? And everyone loves a comeback story. Of course, he's like that type of hero that you root for because he wants to do good things, and he's put into something that he didn't do, and of course everybody. I love that line in the movie where he says, "Well, I'm innocent," and then everybody around him in jail is like, "Yeah, we're all innocent." Yeah, but he's actually is innocent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much so many things in there, and also I love that scene where he's almost thrown off the roof by
Right.
the cop, right? And because he's like telling him, trying to give him advice as a accountant that you can actually get keep all that money as long as it's gifted, right? And he's like,
Yeah.
how close are you to your wife? And the guy's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm throwing you out of this roof. And then, of course, he explains it, so what's cool is that he becomes like the favorite of the guards, where at first he was kind of like this guy that they hated,
Yeah.
and then once he was able to help them and he became their tax accountant guy, then they all liked him after that. But the fact that he's able to get these jobs, like when he's on the roof, and then after that he asked for like beers for his crew,
Yeah.
because and so those kind of good feels are something that I think in life we try to do those kind of things, right? And
Yeah.
when we see it on the screen, it's kind of like validates that we're doing the right thing. So I mean that entire film, even where Morgan Freeman at the end, and it builds it up so nicely because the guy that got out of jail before,
Hmm.
he went and started to reacclimate himself in society, and he couldn't do it because
Yeah.
he's so used to being caged up, and you live that lifestyle for all your life, and then now you gotta come out and you gotta work and you gotta have a place to live, and we don't think about that kind of thing, right? Because we've never dealt with that. But I can understand how it's so hard, especially when you're at a certain age, and for
Yeah.
you, imagine like starting a whole new job, right? All your life you're kind of just like doing your thing, and then all of a sudden at 60 or whatever it is, you got to go, hey, I got to get a new job and I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. So, those kind of things where at the end, Morgan Freeman is in that same position where he's been trying to get out of jail all these times and they keep denying him. Finally, he's so fed up. He's like, look, I don't give a crap, what you think if you're going to let me out or whatever. And then they like approve you're out. And he's
Right.
like, oh shoot, now what do I do? And so it was kind of cool where he actually set all these things up where if Morgan Freeman comes out, then he would get him to go down to this perfect paradise place where he can still work with him. And that's a very amazing ending for a
Yeah.
movie. I mean that's what I mean. There's so many good things in that movie. That's why it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And you're right. Every time I see that movie on TV or even when it's playing, like I'll stop and watch the rest of it or something because you can jump in at any moment in there
Yeah.
and you can still get that good feeling.
I
So,
love it. What are some other films that had an impact on you as a
uh,
filmmaker?
shoot, I've had so many films in my life that so many of them are amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I like sci-fi, of course. Let's see, Dune was one of them.
The
Of course,
original one?
yeah,
The
original one.
original. Okay.
Yeah, original one. Fantastic. Just the visuals. I love well, Alien, all the series of Alien.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? The first two,
Yeah.
fantastic. You can't get better. I like Aliens is like an amazing action slash sci-fi horror film of all
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
The first Terminator, I love that. I mean, there's so many amazing movies, and Star Wars, of course. I'm a huge sci-fi. That's why I just wrote two sci-fi scripts,
Okay.
and one's in development. We're hoping to shoot this sometime early next year. It's a bigger budget movie, but right now it's in development and it's getting a lot of traction. So fingers crossed that yeah, we'll get that one off the ground this coming year.
I'm throwing juju your way. I'm
Okay.
throwing money juju your way.
Yeah. Thank you. And then I have an action film that I'm shooting in Taiwan that is doing fairly well in getting the traction with it.
Nice.
Let's see what else. I've got a horror film that is looming that I want to shoot in Mississippi. Also, I get approached all the time with projects to direct,
Yeah.
and my first thing I always say is, show me the script because I just don't want to jump on anything that I don't think that I like or
Mm,
it's kind of merits. And I read a lot of scripts that I don't feel like I want to be a part of.
yeah.
But if I find something I like, then sure, you know. So there's this other script that I met a distributor producer that um, we started working together, and he's like, "Hey, I've got this script that I've been hanging on for a while. I would love to have you check it out." And I read it, and I'm like, "Wow, okay, put me on." I
Yeah.
like this thing. It's an actor-driven type of script.
Okay.
I think, a lot of times you find scripts that are, and this is the thriller horror kind of feel, but
Yeah.
it's very, acting, huge acting piece. It's basically just about two guys that is going through the elements in the snow, and
Okay.
the banter is amazing, and also the dynamic of these two guys. Yeah, so that's why it's an actor's piece because anytime you get a movie that basically just centers around two guys, it's got to be pretty damn good. If it's
Yeah.
not, then I would never take it on. But I want to change a little bit at the end, just tweak it to give it more of like a supernatural kind of feel.
Mm,
Just because then that leaves the audience, like unexplained things, and at the end they're like, "Well, okay, I see that." It's sort of like The Sixth Sense.
yeah.
The Sixth Sense is kind of crazy because the whole time, you're thinking that he's not a ghost, right? You're thinking that he's just
Spoiler
a
alert.
yeah. Well, I
Listen.
mean, it's such an old movie that I think everyone if you
Yeah.
haven't seen The Sixth Sense and you're not into movies,
Yeah, right. Yeah, I
right?
agree. I agree.
Come on. Yeah, so yeah, this is the type of script that I really love. Yeah, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that one too because I really want to direct that one.
And what's the average lifespan from conception to completion of a film? What would you say? How long has that usually been for you?
Uh, well, it's kind of it ranges differently for each project.
Yeah.
The one I like, ideally, I like to get a project up and running, and then in 2 or 3 months we're fully funded. And then
Wow.
we shoot a project, we shoot the entire project in, let's say, a couple months, and then we go in post-production, and then we sell it in a year. So, like the quickest I've had a film up and running and sold is in a year.
Wow.
And then that's from actually conception of thinking of the project, writing the script, and then getting the funding, and then shooting it, and then delivering it. So 1 year complete.
So you said you go and you get it funded. I'm assuming you have now at this point relationships with people who have funded your projects before. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yes, it's both. It's like people that I have relationships with, and
Yeah.
also I've met new people that once you have a slate of films that is out there, then they can see your body of work, and it's easier for them to say, hey, let's work together. And uh, a lot of times, the ideal thing, like say when I shot this thing in Bulgaria, the sports action movie is when you work for a studio like that, then they fund your movie. You don't have to worry about fundraising, which is the best. Um, the other way is that if you're doing it as an indie, then it's basically relationships, and also always there's so many different ways of raising funds for a movie. These days, there's tax incentive rebates in
Mm.
different states. Of course, you know that. So it's just basically getting the numbers that work in this. Part of it is getting some equity, some investors will come on board for some money up front. Then once you have that equity, then you go out and get an actor that would basically give your movie the return that it needs. And then of course from there, then you go to a tax place that will give you X amount back. Then from
Mhm.
there you have that much. Then you could go even to a film fund company where they only fund like gap funding that will bring back a certain amount. So it's piecemealing it all together, but there's a formula to it. Because once you get to a certain amount, let's say 60% of your budget is funded through soft money, through equity, through actor acquisitions, then the rest of it, someone coming in the last bit is much easier. So yeah, it's kind of like a process.
But you said it's a formula, which implies that generally there is some semblance of a like if step one, two, three, four, five,
Yeah.
six.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you
Exactly.
found that for you. Now, is that a formula that's unique to you, or that you think that's a formula that someone could replicate and at least and model?
I think it's a formula that could be replicated. I think a lot of films these days, the ones that are being made, are
Mm-hmm.
that way. Especially when you see these companies that come on board and you see the same logos all the time. If
Mm.
they have that already established, let's say the 60% or 70% that's already on board, kind of deal with the budget, then they will come on board for the rest.
And what are the first three steps to the formula?
Well, first of all, you have to have a good script.
Right.
That's important. Second step is to find some equity, and
Equity. What do you mean by equity?
that's through finding an investor or someone that's willing to put down, you know,
So
um,
some money.
some money. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and then, of course, going to a place that has some kind of rebate, something that that they'll fund. Well, the rebate, let's say 40 to usually it's 40, but you end up getting, let's say, 30% back, let's say, right, on your money. So basically soft money, or they're willing to give you X amount of money once your project is up and running, of soft money that that they're willing to give you for the project. And then
And
from there, of course, finding the rest of the money through companies that are willing to, fund the rest.
so sounds like script. There's an old saying on stage. It's if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage.
Right.
Right. And then
Correct.
it sounds like at least some semblance, some seed money, some money to get started, and then
Right.
hopefully you said soft money, which from what I understand, I guess is rebates, tax incentives,
Right.
if you go to a certain state or whatever, or a certain country that gives them.
Right.
Um, it, do they need to do all those steps to start getting the ball rolling, or is it like if there's one thing where you're like, okay, let's see what we can start moving with at least this
I
component in
think the
place?
I think the biggest part is getting the money up front, and then getting the actor attached.
Okay.
That's really how the best way to do it is if you have a name actor, and also you need to find out if that name actor will have some kind of value, some cachet that can sell your movie, right? Let's say, right, for instance, let's take a quick number where let's say this actor can come on board and they're being paid, let's say, 500,000 to do your movie. But the distributors, the sales company knows that if you have him on board your movie, then he could sell for, let's say, 1.5. So his value, although you're paying 500, is three times. Let's say I'm
Right.
just taking a number. Then once you have that, then you know that you can come to a distributor and say, or a salesperson and say, look, I have this guy, and they're like, oh, um, if you can sell, he sells for 1.5, then you know that that's how much they're willing to invest into your project. They can give you X amount of money because they know that, let's say they'll give you 1 million, let's say, right? Because they know that if they get your movie, they can sell it for 1.5. So they're already ahead of the game. It's numbers for them. That's all. So
Right.
that's what you need to find. And that's the hardest part too, that people don't know, is that you need to find out how much these actors are worth. And
Right.
that's the key element. You have to know somebody that knows what these actors are worth, and then you kind of go after those actors for your movie.
So when you're saying finding actors are worth 500,000, what is the budget window we're talking about? Because you can make a movie for $1,000 for free, or you can make a movie for $250 million. So
Yeah.
what category are you talking about?
Well, I think, if you, let's say, take the 1.5 this person's worth, you want to make a movie for around 2 million or 1.5 or something like that, because the when you raise the rest of that money, and also you're getting a rebate too. Let's say you shoot a movie in I don't know, Louisiana, and you're getting like 25% back on a $2 million movie. That's pretty good, right? So if you shoot it for, let's say, 2 million, you're looking at 25%. So that's what, that's like 250. That's pretty, I mean, on a 2 million, 250,000, right? Is that right? No, no, I'm sorry, 500,000. So you bump your budget up from 2 million to 2.5 because you know that you have that budget to shoot with. So those are the kind of things you kind of play with those numbers.
Beautiful. We're running a little on time, so I just want to know with you what's you talked about some of the projects that you're working on now. What is next for you in the next coming months?
Uh, okay. I've got a sci-fi that we're hoping to shoot in Bulgaria.
Mm-hmm.
That one's I think the budget is a good size. I think it's around 20-25 mil.
Nice.
I've got a movie that I'm trying to get up and running, hopefully to shoot next year, early next year as well. And it's the Taiwan movie, the action movie.
Nice.
So the one that's the Bulgarian movie is called Above the End, which is like sci-fi, post-apocalyptic. The one that's in
Now this is a Bulgarian. This is shot in Bulgaria with American actors, or this is Bulgarian or European actors?
some European
Okay.
actors in Bulgaria, but mainly American.
Okay.
It's in English. All my movies are English speaking, although we're shooting in different countries. The one in Taiwan is also an action, like a Fast and Furious. It's called In a World of Blue, and that
Mm,
one is hopefully we'll shoot it very soon. We're waiting on certain things to come through. And then I've got one that actually the one that I really wanted to shoot was the one that's called Prey. And it's the one with I was telling you about this, an actor's piece. And we're trying to get that up and running to shoot, next year as well. Let's see, what's the other one? Oh, I just finished a reality show, which I think it's going to be fun. I'm pitching that one to Netflix and see what happens.
nice.
Uh, and then yeah, I mean, I've got a couple other projects that are kind of like not as far along as this one. I got two other projects, but yeah, so those are the one that's on the forefront right now.
Fantastic. Min, you have dropped so many nuggets, and I wish we had all day because you're just a
Yeah,
treasure
well,
trove of stuff. But
I
I
hope
want to
yeah, I hope it help anyone who's inspired to work in the industry. I hope that at least it help them move along and the thing is like for me, I always say is don't get discouraged and keep going. Don't have somebody say no and
yeah.
then make that something that that's gonna discourage that person from don't let that person ruin what you're trying to do and and go for that dream.
I love it. Thank you so much, brother. Well,
All right.
thank you. We're gonna I'm gonna put all your information and stuff like that in the description so people can check out your stuff and go ahead and do it, man. The guy's a hell of a filmmaker. So
Well,
have a
thank you.
great day, brother.
All right, you too. Take care.
Talk soon.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.